Charter Township of Oxford Board of Trustees regular meeting for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. Please rise and pay respects to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Wright,
Here.
Noel,
Yes.
Ferrari,
Here?
Payne,
Here.
Colvin, Charles,
Here.
Curtis.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Okay, I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Payne. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Payne. Are there any questions? Seeing or hearing none, roll call please.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk White, yes. And Supervisor Curtis.
Yes. Public comment on items not on the agenda. This is where we take public comments on items that aren't on the agenda. Everybody's given 3 minutes to speak, so just state your name and your business, please.
My name just a minute longer. I'm CJ Carnacchio, Oxford Township's Communications and Grants Manager, and I'm pleased to announce that Oxford Township was recently awarded a $20,506.80 grant from the Ford County Community Foundation to build a 2,400 square foot pocket park on the Township Hall's grounds this year. The park will include 3 pieces of accessible play equipment for children, 2 pieces of accessible exercise equipment for adults and teens, an accessible table, a bicycle repair station, a park bench, a trash receptacle, and ADA compliant surface. This is Oxford Township's 4th grant from Ford County Community Foundation since 2020. I can't thank them enough for investing in our community and our people. The new park will be named for the late Helen Smith, a selfless Oxford resident who devoted her life to supporting local youth, bettering her community, and helping run Smith Silo, a successful, well-known family business. Helen made it her personal mission to see to it that Oxford's young people always received the financial and moral support they needed and deserved. Through her hard work with the Oxford Wildcat Booster Club and American Legion Post 108, she was committed to helping students succeed in the classroom, on the field, and in the world after graduation. Helen was Oxford. Her accomplishments, leadership, and generosity helped shape this community for more than 6 decades. But with Oxford continuing to grow, there could come a day when nobody knows who Helen is or what she did. Building this park is one way to help ensure Helen and her legacy are never forgotten. A bronze plaque bearing an image of Helen and a brief biography will help tell her story to visitors. The Ford County Community Foundation's grant money will be combined with $58,750 in cash donations and nearly $12,000 worth of in-kind donations that I was able to secure from 29 businesses, organizations, and individuals. I wish to take a moment to thank the donors publicly. McLaren Oakland Hospital, the Clark Fund, Lee Industrial Plaza, Koenig Materials, Barron Industries, Oxford Bank, Frontier Distributing, Dan Davis, RLM Industries, HealthQuest Physical Therapy, American Legion Post 108, the Auxiliary, and AMVETS Post 108, North Oakland VFW Post 334, Rattlewood Farms, 4B Foundation, Casimir Tool and Machine, 24th Street Sports Tavern, Puritan Magnetics, Brad Jacobson, Collier Lanes, Oxford Hills, Acorn Stamping, Oxford Education Association, Oxford Wildcat Band Boosters, Dr. Mark Orchard, Birmingham Seal Coat, Oxford Township Parks and Rec, and Sinclair Recreation. I also want to thank Township Engineer Jim Sharp, Park Superintendent Jeff Kindness, Sarah Cohead of the Treasurer's Office, Daniel Smith, Executive Assistant to the Supervisor, and retired Parks and Rec Director Ron Davis for the help and guidance they provided to bring this project to life. And finally, I want to thank Supervisor Curtis for all the support he's given me since I approached him with this idea last March. He backed me from this on day one. His enthusiastic embrace of new ideas is a real motivator and I greatly appreciate his leadership and collaborative spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Go ahead.
Good evening. Brian Cloutier, Director of Oxford Public Library. First, I'd like to say as a trustee on the Fort County Community Foundation, I'm very pleased that we've been able to collaborate with our hometown here and do some great things, and I'm looking forward to continuing that. It was a surprise when CJ approached me to share with me the news this evening. I don't sit on that committee, so I wasn't aware of that particular grant, but it's great to see that good things are happening with our collaboration between our agencies and the township. As your director, I just wanted to bring you up to date because I can't remember last time I was actually here and talked to you about an update on the fire situation at the library. But I am very pleased to say that in record time, approximately 3 weeks, we were able to turn the library around and open it back up to the public after the fire. I met with our insurance agent this evening, and really, he said it was a time period that he's never really seen, and a turnaround of a facility of our size with this significant amount of level of work that needed to be done in such a short period of time. And we couldn't have done it, obviously, without the support of all of the hardworking people who made that happen. And I'm very pleased to say that we have one of the most amazing fire departments in the area. To say that I was on the roof at the time of the fire and on the phone still with our alarm company, and the fire department was already pulling down the boulevard is amazing. Kudos to everyone there. They're hardworking people and they do a great work. But I also want to give you a quick update. All 4 rooftop units, 2 new boilers, all the automated controls and humidifiers for our facility are now in place and operational. It took a little longer than we anticipated. One of our rooftop units got held up in Texas, but really, I'm very pleased to say that that has been put to bed as well. All said, excluding the work that was put into the replacement of the units themselves, because we paid for that out of our fund balance, but the damage to the facility and smoke damage was right around $250,000. I'm very pleased to say that insurance covered all of that except for our $500 deductible. So we're very lucky. We were very fortunate in so many ways. It could have been much worse than it was. So thank you all for your time, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Number 7, second reading of the water ordinance, 105B.010, connection to the water system. Look right, you want to handle that?
Yes, I can handle that. Board members, in your packet is the second reading for the water ordinance 105B-1010. And what this does is requires hookup to the water system based upon permit that's required from the Oakland County Health Department. So we went through a first reading. There's been no changes that have been submitted to myself or Supervisor Curtis that I'm aware of. I do want to point out one item on the ordinance though. There's a wording issue that indicates it's the water drain commissioner, Oakland County Drain Commissioner, and it should be Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. So I can pull that up here.
So with that change, you would recommend?
I would recommend approval for this.
I move to adopt ordinance 105B-010, ordinance to amend section 62-31, titled definitions, to amend section 62-36, titled service pipes, supply pipes and connections, and chapter 62, article 2, titled water system, the Charter Township of Oxford Code, with the change of Oakland County Drain Commission and Oakland County Water Resources Commission.
Second. I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Noel. Are there any questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Charles?
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Supervisor Curtis?
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari?
Yes.
Trustee Noel?
Yes.
Trustee Payne?
Yes.
And Trustee Colvin?
Yes.
Item 7B, mobile food establishment ordinance, 135.001. Let's take that.
I can take that.
Go ahead. Greg, thank you.
What's happened here is that we have an existing mobile food ordinance in place, and it was very difficult for the applicant and the township and the fire department to coordinate. So with the assistance of Attorney Ellis, we've redrafted the whole total ordinance now to be totally revised, and that will include now that the applicant will go directly through the fire department for the permitting and the approval process. So it's definitely going to streamline the process for everybody. So there were no questions or comments or changes to this ordinance. So I'd recommend this for approval as well.
I move to adopt ordinance 135.001, ordinance to amend chapter 26, titled Fire Prevention and Protection, the Oxford Charter Township Code, adding a new section 26-23, titled Mobile Food Establishments, as presented.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Charles. Are there any questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Clerk Wright, yes. Supervisor Curtis.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
And Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Item 8A, Fire Department. Chief, you want to talk about the purchase of EMS ventilators?
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to thank Brian for the kind words. Much appreciated. Nice to hear it. What I've done here is just submitted just for your consideration. I realized last month there was talk about a lack of projects having been submitted for further use of the ARPA money. And I'm just asking at this point, if you get nothing else, or if we get to a point where we have the funds left over and available, this would be a very good resource for us and would save us a considerable amount of money out of our budget. And it's definitely a needed item. The ventilators that we currently use are driven completely by oxygen, and if we run out of oxygen, the ventilators no longer work. These new ventilators are battery driven and supplemented with oxygen, so even if we run out of oxygen in our ride to any of the various hospitals, and we all know what our ride is like going to hospitals and what our distances are, it is not uncommon to use up the oxygen we have on board to run a ventilator. And so now, if given this opportunity, they would actually still operate with battery after the fact without a loss of care given. You may say, well, how often are you using the ventilators? We use them for CPRs, right? That may only be a handful per month, but it's a handful. What we do use them for more often now than anything is CPAP, and it's that constant pressure for people that are in respiratory distress. And that's being used multiple times a week. And it does take a toll on our equipment. And as you saw in the paperwork, the stuff we have now is over 15 years old. And so, again, I'm just asking you to keep it into consideration. If we have that point where we have the money available, it would be greatly appreciated on our part.
I move to approve expenditure of $42,723.60 of ARPA funds for the purchase of EMS ventilators for the Oxford Fire Department.
Second for discussion.
Okay, I think we have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari. I think Trustee Charles seconded it, but I know our Trustee Noel has some questions.
I would like to see the board recommend to the committee to put this as a top priority and for the committee to review it and get back with the board in regards to the ventilator.
Normally, what we've done with this ARPA funds is to put it in the committee and then prioritize it as to where it goes. I know that Treasurer Ferrari made this motion specifically because it is an emergency need. I guess by roll call vote, we can find out whether we should approve it or whether we should send it back to committee. I don't know if it's out of order to do it that way, but I think it's probably best we do it that way, in my opinion, but we'll see. Roll call? Oh, question, yes, sir.
The process, and I would agree with Trustee Noel on this, but usually Attorney also will review the request before it's approved to make sure it's ARPA eligible.
Correct.
So, Again,
Yes, trustee Charles,
So in the process, we want to vote this down and then have another resolution, correct?
that is one way to do it, to ensure that we are compliant with the ARPA rules.
Just so everyone understands the protocol.
Everybody understand that?
the motion could be withdrawn too, couldn't it?
We can vote on it. I'll call a vote. Roll call?
Trustee Colvin? Trustee Payne?
No.
Trustee Noel?
No.
Treasurer Ferrari?
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis?
No.
Clerk Wright, no, and Trustee Charles? No.
It'll go back to committee, let them get it in line, we'll get it.
That was all I was actually hoping for tonight, is to move it in that right direction. I was not looking for action tonight. I just
Okay.
wanted you to consider it if we don't have anything else, and it's something that could really help us out.
Anything else you want to update the committee on tonight, or the board on tonight?
Well, yeah, we had performed some interviews, and we have made an offer contingent upon a successful completion of a physical exam for a new assistant chief. And that went really well. It is a gentleman that has a very good history of and a very good reputation for being a strong leader within the fire service in southeast Michigan. He actually retired out of St. Clair Shores as a battalion chief, and for the last year he's been the interim chief at the Port Huron Township Fire Department, but he lives here in Oakland County, and he's ready to not do that drive 5 days a week out to Port Huron. So I think we've made a very good selection. I'm looking forward to being able to present him at the we're not sure about if we'll be able to present him at the March meeting due to he still needs to close up some loose ties, close up some loose ends, I should say, at his present position. So we are excited to kind of move forward there. So
Thank you. Any questions for the chief? Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Item number 9, Engineer Sharp Engineering Report. Anything to report, Engineer Sharp? I got water, I mean, I could read it, but
Yeah, I mean, as was noted at the last meeting, you had requested this report, wanted it put in the packet. There it is in front of you, and I don't know if CJ's been putting it on the website or not, but if, I'm just here to answer any of those questions on any of those projects or anything else that's engineering related that I might be able to address for you.
any questions for Engineer Sharp?
Very well done, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, keep it posted.
Item number 10, unfinished business. 10A, American Rescue Plan Act update. Clerk Wright.
Yeah, I wanted to bring this to the board on behalf of the committee, and just to give you an update here. We've not expended any monies to date. We still have the same monies available to spend, allocation, and what's been spent to date there. There's a few invoices that did come in on that. So on the first round, as we call it, 1.108 million was allocated or approved by the township board. We still have $547,000 to spend, and we still have $923,364 to actually expend yet. So what the committee did at our last meeting is we had a list of about 20 items that we were we paired in the screen there. Once we received the capital improvement list from the township board that Supervisor Curtis wanted to put in place, these aren't necessarily the priority order, but they're in an order of just random listed. So capital improvements to the township hall property, as you're aware, there's several items that need to be done outside the building and inside the building. Cemetery maintenance, one of our big priorities is trying to get the walls repaired in the cemeteries. Some are in very bad disrepair, so we're going to be sending out an RFP on that. Supervisor Curtis and I will be working on that as a cemetery committee. We've also been, in the water and sewer committee meetings, been trying to get a fire hydrant painting proposal. To people's knowledge, you may not realize, but there's over 700 hydrants in the township that need to be painted, so it's a big project. So we left it on there. Water treatment plant, that is something that is going to be needed on the east side of M24, because all of our water is supplied from this side of the township, and that's probably going to be a $4 million or more plus project, I would imagine. per Engineer Sharp's estimates. And also we have Welcome to Oxford signs. This is a proposal, we're looking at putting a gateway sign coming northbound and southbound into Oxford. We've got some designs that we have been bouncing around from the committee level, and we're looking at trying to put something really nice together so people know that it's Oxford, and we're trying to do it pretty unique. So that's where we're at with these things. Tonight's request from Chief Majestic, the committee will take that back for consideration. I've also had another request that I'll be discussing with the committee. When that comes up, our next meeting is on the 22nd of February at 9 o'clock, I believe. And I don't know if Trustee Payne or Trustee Noel want to add anything more from the committee.
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Treasurer
The
Ferrari.
committee's done a great job of touching all the different aspects in the township. One thing's not touched is the library. I'd like to see the committee take a look at something about the library. Every other part of the township's been touched: water, sewer, parks and rec, safety path. I think the committee really look at, work with the library to give them some piece of the pie, whatever that piece is.
Yep.
And kind of put personalities aside and remember that the Oxford Public Library is for everybody.
Well, personalities are an individual decision of who thinks there's personalities involved. But those discussions have been taking place, so like I said, the committee will be looking at some of those other proposals.
In response, Treasurer Ferrari, work with Director Cloutier and find out if there's something that needs to be added, and I would request that you ask the committee to add that.
Brian will
Thank
be
you.
in discussion.
All right, any other questions on American Rescue Plan? Seeing none, item 10B, Trustee Noel, single waste hauler update ordinance funding request.
I'd like to give a brief update. We have submitted a request for proposal to various contractors on January 12th. We have a big opportunity coming up the 1st of March for our evaluation period. Within that period, we're going to host a public hearing here at the Township on March 7th. You'll see more about that in the Oxford Leader. That will be a question and answer and explain in detail the transition period for the waste hauler. What I'm here tonight to ask for authorization for a single trash hauler committee to work with attorney Brittany Ellis to draft a waste hauler collection regulation ordinance to be presented at the first reading at the future Charter Township of Oxford Trustee Board meeting.
I have a motion by Trustee Noel and a second by Trustee Payne. Any questions? Clerk Wright?
No, I was going to ask if that was in the form of a motion.
I heard a motion.
Yes, sir. I thought that was too.
Any questions? Roll call?
Trustee Noel?
Yes.
Trustee Payne?
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Treasurer Ferrari?
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis?
Yes.
Trustee Charles?
Yes.
And Trustee Colvin?
Yes.
Item 11A, Paint Lake Canal Special Assessment District request. Curtis Wright.
This is a renewal of a special assessment district. The previous one expired in 2022, and it's approximately 20 lots that are involved in this. This was the very first SAD that Oxford Township was involved with for weed ratification or eradication, suppression. And you see the map there. This is the area to be determined by Engineer Sharp, but the items in blue are the residents that signed off on the SAD to move forward with it. And just based on preliminary calculations, it looks like they need to be over 50% of the land area. So with that, I will make a motion to authorize Sharp Engineering to determine the boundary area and the cost estimate for the purpose of creating a special assessment district to eradicate weeds and paint, formerly known as Squaw Lake Canal.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Clerk Wright, second by Treasurer Ferrari. Are there any questions? Yes, sir, Trustee Charles.
Stuart, is there for the homeowners, is there an approximate cost right now doing this? Anything on a preliminary basis?
What the township has done is requested a $1,500 deposit, and the purpose of that is so that if we get to the final stages of SAD and the applicants change their mind, the township isn't on the hook for the monies that have been expended. But the estimated cost is probably going to approach like $2,500. It's an initial credit or deposit, if you would, to put it in, because you have to send out letters to all applicants. You have to have 2 public hearings. You got to publish in the paper twice for each of those public hearings. You've got administrative costs, engineering costs, potentially legal costs involved. So it's a very lengthy process. It's something that possibly, if legislation was motivated, maybe they could streamline the process, because it's a 4 to 5 month process now based upon our meeting short of getting a special meeting.
Thank you.
For a motion?
Motion's in place, a motion in a second.
All the questions and seconded, okay. Roll call?
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. And Supervisor Curtis.
Yes. Item 11B, MERS contribution. Board members, at the August 24th Board of Trustees meeting, the board voted to allocate $300,000 from the general fund to use for the MERS contribution for the 2023 fiscal year. I'm asking the board to approve the transfer of the $300,000 to go toward the MERS contribution.
I move to approve the transfer of $300,000 from general fund account number 101-995-965.206, contribution to fire fund to the fire department. This $300,000 is to be used for MERS contributions toward the police retiree beneficiaries.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Charles. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What will this bring us up to as far as percentage of being funded?
I do not know at this time with the fluctuation in the market. We could buy in tomorrow and it could fall further or go up. I don't know.
It was what, 78%?
78, 77 point something.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know where it'll bring us because it's such a moving target, but. No more questions, roll call?
Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes.
Okay. Item 11C, zoning ordinance amendment to allow for recreational marijuana sales. Board members, I received petitions from the 3 medical marijuana licensed providers in our community, changing and requesting a change to allow recreational marijuana in the community. The letters are included in your packet, but the members are here tonight. If you'd like to come up and speak rather than read your letter out loud, you can come up and speak. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Tom DiAugustino. I represent the Lifted Group, what we know as Superb. I want to bring you up to date first on the commitment we've made to the community here. Initially, our investment in the community, we estimated about $1.5 million to renovate the Mazda Auto Building. As a consequence of the MDOT requirements and other site requirements, the cost of the site approval or site development has gone up by $600,000. Overall, our commitment is closer to $2.2 to $2.5 million to build out and produce this facility. We've already invested $1.1 million into that process between land acquisition, the internal demolition, and the engineering and design costs. Our decision to come into this community was driven in large part by the business opportunity. I think you've seen in my letter that in the 18 months since this township began the assessment of whether to get involved in the cannabis business, that business has changed substantially. I'm not going to reiterate everything that's in my letter. You know what has happened to the price of medical marijuana, what has happened to the price of recreational marijuana, what has happened to the number of patients in the community. I want to add a couple of things that aren't in my letter, though, that I've discovered since. We have a cultivation facility in Lake Orion that's committed to cultivating both medical marijuana and recreational marijuana for use in our facilities and others in the community. There is a dispensary or a cultivation facility next door to ours that has sent letters to everybody that they do business with and told them they're getting out of the medical marijuana cultivation business. So this, and there are others, other individuals or entities that have sent similar letters. So the impact of what is happening in this community isn't just an impact on the retailers. Cultivators are getting out of the business, processors are getting out of the business. And in order for us to be able to supply to those in this community and others, we've made a commitment to continue to cultivate the medical marijuana to provide for that in this community. As a simple business proposition, what we bought into 12 months ago and what began as a process in this community 16 months or 18 months ago has changed dramatically. And it will be critical to the survival of any medical facility that they have the ability to also benefit from the sale of adult use. Without recreational adult use here, these three facilities, in my estimation, I'm sure Mr. Yutuma will share that, will probably fall prey to the other facilities that are offering recreational only. So we're asking you to embrace the idea of adding the recreational. I've laid out for you the economics to the community. It's a fairly substantial return to this community that will probably increase substantially as years go by. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know this is public comment, I assume, so maybe not a question and answer time, but I'm happy to do that if anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions for this petitioner? Please direct them to me. Okay, anybody, any other petitioner want to
Thank you.
speak?
Good evening. My name is Heather Cood. I'm here on behalf of Curative LLC. I have a letter here from Joseph Gordhammer, owner of Curative, that I don't believe made it into your packet for this evening's meeting, so I'd like to take this opportunity to read it to you. Happy New Year, Township Board. Curative LLC hereby requests to be granted an adult use marijuana dispensary license by the Township of Oxford. Curative LLC received a medical marijuana provisioning center license on July 13, 2022. With sales of medical marijuana falling resulting from the legalization of adult use marijuana sales, it is becoming increasingly apparent that only recreational sales of marijuana can help a dispensary sustain its business. While granting a permit to Curative LLC to allow it to sell adult use marijuana in the Township of Oxford is essential to its success, Curative remains committed to servicing the medical marijuana market in Oxford as well. According to the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, or MRTMA, there exists an excise tax on the sale of adult use marijuana in Michigan. The amount of this excise tax is 10%. MRTMA provides that part of this excise tax is to be shared with municipalities in which marijuana retail stores are located. So unlike medical marijuana sales, sales of adult use marijuana generate additional taxes which are paid to the municipality. The Township of Oxford will financially benefit from the sale of adult use marijuana, according to MRTMA. Sales of adult use marijuana are also expected to allow Curative LLC to create more jobs. If, for example, sales of medical marijuana generate $100,000 in monthly sales, Curative LLC expects sales of adult use marijuana to generate many more times that amount. Such increased sales will mean that Curative LLC needs more staff to service its customers, providing residents of the Township of Oxford well-paying jobs in an exciting new industry. We believe that Curative LLC is well positioned to excel in the Oxford market. We believe that Curative LLC is deserving of an adult use marijuana dispensary license. Thank you.
Board members, are there any questions of the petitioner? Seeing none. The other petitioners like to speak?
Good evening, Board. I'm Joseph Say, longtime Oxford resident and property owner. Everything I had kind of wanted to say has been said by the two previous presenters, so I won't bore you with duplicating that.
Thank you.
However, I do come on behalf as Wisha Investments, which is the property owner at 1225 South Lapeer Road. A handful of you know that have been a part of the community for a long time that I've owned this property for over 20 years and made several attempts to build something there. So we finally got a blessing from above to find a good fit for the property, and then everything's changing. And one of the biggest things is the cost of building this facility. So I strongly request and urge you to please consider this approval, because it's going to be crucial not only for the survival of the operator, but as a property owner as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Gregory Tuno with Frequency Wellness. Again, you have my letter, and as Mr. Curtis affirmed, you don't want me to hear read it again. I do want to say a couple things, though, that just to kind of explain it, and as I believe I'll be the last of the petitioners, if there are any questions, I should be able to field them, is that it is very much a request for an additional license and a different license for adult use, but it is borderline administrative in the fact that it is literally the exact same product. When a grower grows a plant, he either puts a white tag or a blue tag on it for medical or for adult use. Same product, same plant, same genetics, just who can buy it through the MRA program, the CRA program, excuse me. The way that the state of Michigan adopted cannabis was quite arguably like one of the worst in the state of Michigan, how it was done through ballot initiatives and through a lot of political wrangling. So it's several laws kind of smashed together. And so it is not meant to be efficient, it is not meant to be effective. The way it's set up is just wrong. It eventually is going to be cleaned up. It is something our governor is working on to kind of clean it up to make a single license. But until then, it's created this issue within municipalities where they have to be medical or adult use, and there's this implied stigma of adult use that really doesn't exist anymore. The cannabis market is 10% of medical. It used to be 95%. It's not a matter of the fact that you have other people using the product as much as you have people not necessarily needing to get a card anymore, because they don't need to pay the $65 a state. They don't need to have a doctor's appointment. They don't need to be a card-carrying cannabis member to use cannabis anymore. I assume none of you are card-carrying members, but an adult use facility allows you to go in and get something for your back pain or for some other pain. So it becomes much more of a pharmacy aspect when it becomes adult use. It is literally the exact same product, manufactured at the exact same facilities, sold at the exact same facility. It's just additional permit from the municipality. And as they stated, it very much is a financial, because 9 out of 10 people that buy cannabis in or Oxford Township won't be able to come into the facility. So it precludes us, and a real life example is the city of Southfield. They only had medical. They allowed 4 shops, 3 of them are closed. They opened and they closed. And there's one at 12 Mile and Telegraph that I passed by, brand new facility, wasn't a single car in the parking lot, because they can go north or south and get infinitely more product selection and allow 90% more people into the building. It's the exact same product, the exact same everything, just a different tag as supplied by the CRA. So not to minimize the request here that we're asking for an adult use, but in all reality, we're asking the ability to be able to sell to everyone that wants to buy, as opposed to those that are just limited to the medical program or the really antiquated card-carrying program. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, thank you, Mr.
Thank you for your time.
Brittany, did you have something to say?
Do you want me to speak to the procedure?
Sure. What is the procedure?
So if this board is so inclined to consider, short people problems, to consider opting into recreational retail, the procedure would be a simple ordinance amendment. What you would do is you would pass it, the zoning ordinance would go to your planning commission for public hearing. What it would be is, if you hold a current medical retailer license, you may opt into recreational. The reason why that's advantageous is because you've already selected those locations that work for retail for this community, and it would just be a continuation of that use. So do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. Number 1, is this additional license available at $5,000 a copy?
Are you referring to the state process, the state
Yes.
licensing process?
Currently, the medical was $5,000 each. In order to move to recreational, is it another $5,000 fee to be charged to sell recreational?
Through the township's process or
Yes.
through the state process?
Township.
That would be up to the township if you want to include an additional fee, or you can do a simple opt-in, which is what most communities have opted to do, since these facilities are already approved and they don't have to go through an additional site plan approval process.
Okay, and secondly, there are public hearings at the planning commission.
Correct.
And then after that, if it should be changed, it would then come back to this board for more public hearing to,
So your planning commission acts as your recommending body. They'll make a recommendation to this board after holding a public hearing, and then that ordinance will come to this board to consider for first reading.
okay, so there would be 3 readings in total for public people to speak at.
There will be 3 opportunities for the public to come and speak on the ordinance amendment. That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Board members?
Couple questions. What action does this board need to take tonight?
Jen, you need to talk to me.
I'm sorry. What action do you think this board would take tonight, sir?
We would have a motion that would need to be read to move this to the planning commission for consideration of the 2 sentences that need to be added to the planning ordinance. Yes,
Just trustee Noel can use his name.
oh,
Excuse me.
second question?
Yes. I did a lot of research when we went into this medical situation, and I talked to many, many people, including the petitioners and things. And the township came up, and they came up with 4 distinct areas that they were interested in, some of our blighted areas, to put these facilities. From our review and from our work at the township board level, it was moved down to 3 distinct areas. And those 3 are the petitioners here tonight, is my question?
Correct.
Yes.
That's accurate.
Then Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, if you would, please.
Are there any other questions?
I just want to clarify, there is no additional approval process needed to change from medical to recreational, a licensing process for the 3 homes. There's nothing else they have to do.
Not at the township level, there will be at the state level, once following ordinance amendment.
The applicant would then have to apply at the state for recreational.
Correct.
Come on up.
I can indicate for our group, and including for Mr. Utuma's group as well, we're already pre-qualified at the state for retail, recreational, and adult use. Obviously, our intention is to maybe find another location one day, but there wouldn't be any required additional state.
Thank you. Yes, sir, trustee Charles.
The timing would be potentially would come back here in what, June? June meeting? Potentially.
If it were sent to the planning commission, it would be to the planning commission to drive the change and how much work it is. We'd have to ask Attorney Ellis, how long would that take to do at a planning commission? They'd have to have a public hearing, they would have to have a vote on it, and then recommend to us, I would say, what, June possibly?
I would say they can have it done by June, unless they have extensive changes that they send back to the attorneys.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Everybody knows how I feel about this, so I'm gonna reiterate it. I've been following this marijuana stuff for the state. It's been predicted that medical marijuana will go by the wayside. And I think it'll also change again once Detroit gets in the market. It's all gonna change. Even though we got 3 permitted, if this doesn't come back here till June, I don't expect all 3 of them to be built. I mean, the market's changing every day. And you're seeing now Detroit coming in with cultivating, growing, and selling. What's gonna end up happening is people go down to Detroit to a ball game, casino, whatever, go around and get their product and come back. We're gonna see a huge consolidation. I predict that probably to the middle of the end of this year, if these guys aren't built before June, I don't expect them, many to get built.
Thank you, Treasurer Ferrari. Clerk Wright.
Yeah, and Mr. DiAgostino's letter said that the operations have to be approved by September 30th. I don't know how any of these operations, except for the existing one, can actually have a building operational by September 30th. So maybe if that can be clarified from the letter.
John, do you want to come up?
Yeah, with that, in order to qualify for state revenues, you have to have licensed facilities in operation by September 30th. The following year, September 30th, the following year, September 30th. So it's not a one-time deadline.
The
But
state excise tax
that's the state
is,
excise sharing.
if
revenue
you
sharing.
have your establishment running and operating by September 30th and licensed and selling, you participate in the excise share,
It's
correct?
my understanding that it has to be licensed by the state, so that's a
Yes.
step two process. Doesn't necessarily have to be operational, you just have to have them licensed by the state, so certainly we can accomplish that.
Answer your question?
Personnel?
Okay. Any other questions for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
Having received a petition for a zoning ordinance amendment from persons with an interest in the property in the marijuana provisioning overlay district, I move to direct the township attorney to prepare a draft text zoning amendment for referral to the Oxford Township Planning Commission to authorize any person or entity who has obtained all applicable licensing and approvals from the state of Michigan and obtained a permit under the zoning ordinance for the operation of a medical marijuana provision center to operate as a marijuana retailer on the same location approved for medical marijuana provision center.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Noel, a second by trustee Charles. Are there any questions of the board members? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Colvin?
Yes.
Trustee Charles?
Yes.
Trustee Payne?
Yes.
Trustee Noel?
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari?
No.
Clerk Wright? No. And Supervisor Curtis?
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 11D, Ordinance Review Committee Request for Funding. Trustee Noel?
This is put on the agenda for ordinance review committee request for funding. We got involved with the funding requirements and the reporting of that. And I'd like to table this until next month, before we can do some in-depth review on how we're going to calculate the funding.
Okay, so the request, you have a date that it's going to be brought back. That would be a postponement, am I correct? So you're making a motion to postpone
Yes, sir.
this until the next March 8th meeting.
Yes.
Look for a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none. It is postponed till March 8th. Item 11E, appraisal for the easement acquisition. Board members, what you have in front of us tonight, the Water and Sewer Committee meeting is recommending, is telling what we have had to do in the North Area Sanitary Sewer Project. A small easement has to be acquired before the project can begin. With this board's approval, we have been given the authorization to move forward with the emergency and expeditious endeavors in the Water and Sewer Committee. And what we had to do is, we have to go for a quick take and secure an appraiser in order to acquire this easement in the event the property owner is unwilling to deed the easement. This cost is not to exceed $5,000, and it's done because right now the project is 2 months behind, and every month you wait, the cost of the materials is going up about approximately 5%. So with that, we move forward.
And you have approached the homeowner, the property owner, to come up to an agreement. It hasn't happened, correct?
I've talked to him as soon as 4:30 this afternoon, and we've made several offers and attempts to get it throughout the past month.
No success.
No success.
I move to affirm the Oxford Township Water and Sewer Committee direction to authorize Attorney Brittany Ellis to move forward to engage an appraiser at a cost not to exceed $5,000, and move forward with the quick take process to obtain a property easement identified as part of parcel number P0422200011, which is necessary for the North Area Sanitary Sewer Project.
Second?
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Noel. Are there any questions? Board members, this is a 50-foot piece of property that the sewer needs to go under, that the owner of the property has been contacted well over 50 times, and several offers have been made. Now we have to go through this process to do that. So if there are no, yes, sir,
Is this residential or commercial?
commercial. If no more questions, I'd call the vote.
Supervisor Curtis.
Yes.
Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Charles.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Okay, board members, tonight, the Water and Sewer Committee, which one is this one? This is the, to overhaul the water pump at Oxford Woods Water Treatment. You'll find in your packet attached is an email from the WRC Chief Engineer showing the drawdown for this pump needed to be repaired. The committee, the Water Sewer Committee approved the estimated $45,000 to approve the water well pump to be repaired. We're coming to you telling you that through the emergency, we had to approve these funds. I bring this in front of the board tonight.
I move to affirm the Oxford Township Water and Sewer Committee direction to allocate $45,000 in RFI's Oakland County Water Resources Commission to repair Oxford Woods Well Number 1, with the funds to be taken from Oakland County Water Resources Commission capital improvement reserves.
Second?
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Noel. Are there any questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Colvin.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Noel.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Supervisor Curtis.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. And Trustee Charles.
Yes.
We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Another call to the public for public comment. Yes, sir.
Sorry. I'm getting old. It stinks. Brian Cloutier, Director, Oxford Public Library. I just want to remind everybody, if you've not had the opportunity to visit the library since we've reopened, we are currently hosting the Native American Treaties exhibit that is on loan to us from the Clark Historical Library at Central Michigan University. That exhibit also includes the portraits of the signers. So it will be with us through the end of March. So we welcome you to come back to the library if you haven't been there a while and see the exhibit and take advantage of some of the really cool programming that we still have going on around that exhibit. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Any other members of the public? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Prather and I live in the village of Oxford, and I wanted to thank you all so much for adding the Gun Violence Survivors Week proclamation to your consent agenda this evening for approval. I just want to note for the council, in case you aren't aware, that the first week of February is selected as National Gun Violence Survivors Week because it is during this week each year that the United States marks more gun violence deaths than our closest peer countries will have in an entire year. I find this statistic to be so unacceptable that I will continue to do all that I can to educate people about the importance of common sense safety measures like securely storing your weapons. I welcome the community to join me in the shared goal of keeping children and at-risk individuals safe. And thank you so much again for helping me in doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Seeing none, Board of Trustees comments. We're going to start with Trustee Colvin.
Thanks. I'm not sure if you all realize the DDA went through its Main Street accreditation. We were accredited, so good news there. The DDA also owns a trolley now. For those who don't know, we actually bought it, so and it should be up and running for Ice Fest, which should be going on starting Thursday, I think. Right? So good news from the DDA, and I think that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Payne?
I have nothing.
Trustee Noel?
I just want to speak for the committee for the waste hauler, where Trustee Payne and Trustee Curtis Wright have been working very, very diligently in researching and gathering information to do the best job for the township that we can. And again, I extend an invitation to you all to come on March 7th here at the Township Hall. If you have any questions for anything, any further details regarding the waste hauler.
Are you gonna notice this meeting at March
Yes,
7th?
what was suggested by the committee, one of the committee members, was to possibly contact the leader to see if we could get a small article in the leader that would only talk about what the process is and invite folks to the March 7th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Treasurer Ferrari?
The Safety Path Committee is hard at work, trying to get our priorities changed and get some projects on the board for the Township Board to take a look at for 2023.
Clerk Wright?
A few things for the board members and employees. Tomorrow, Jeff Carlos from Burning Flower will be here, so if you want to discuss your retirement funds with him, he'll be available, I think, from 8 to 2, somewhere in that range. Also, thank you to Jim Sharp for the report. I thought it was well put together, and I think it'll be a big asset going forward.
Thank you.
Like that. Also, thank you to CJ for securing that project. It'll be a nice addition to the township. Another focal point, so good job on that. Clerk's Department is in the process of redistricting some of our precincts. So what our attempt is to try to put all Lake Orion schools into one voting precinct, so we don't have to have a split ballot. So that's in the working process. And the last thing is just a reminder, the Chamber of Commerce Awards or Leadership Community Breakfast is on March 8th, a month from today. So if you can make that out, it'll be well worth your time. Supervisor Curtis speaking, Village Manager Medora, and another fellow speaking that slips my mind. So it'll be a nice event. And my comments.
Thank you. Trustee Charles?
Oxford Edison Youth is doing a bottle drive, can drive, coming up in March. So if any board member wants to save some canned bottles, I'll pick them up, or you can drop them off at my house.
Is there a central location like there was last year?
There will be. It hasn't been officially designated at this point, but I'm sure it's going to be the police station in the village.
Okay. Anything else? That's good. Thank you. Best for last, right? Board members, I want you to look at your calendar for the next board meeting. It's March 8th. And what I'm requesting is that each of you put down the start of that meeting at 5:30. The meeting starting at 5:30 will be presented by our attorney for an hour to discuss the current method of how we act and present ourselves at our board meetings, what motions, how to make them, things we're doing right, things we need to improve on. We've challenged ourselves to keep becoming better at this. I notice it's 7:28. I got 2 minutes and we'll get us out of here at 7:30. But we handle our business correctly, and Attorney Ellis is going to be talking to us March 8th at 5:30. That's 1 hour early. The regular meeting will begin at 6:30. So if you do, please let me know if you have a challenge. Yes?
Yeah, just, I know it's comment period, but this will have to be posted as a special meeting.
Okay.
Because it's a township board, maybe no decisions, but.
Posted that our meeting will be at 5:30.
You could technically maybe make it a workshop meeting.
Yes.
There's no decisions being made.
Correct.
So just so we're aware. So
That's what it is, exactly. No decisions will be made. It's workshop and training. 5:30, March 8th. Secondly, yesterday, I spent 4 hours with attorneys and the county. Brittany, you weren't there, but we worked on the NOTA contract resolution with the county to determine, to get the funding from the recently passed county initiative transit authority. I will be bringing a resolution to the March 8th meeting that we will review and hopefully pass, that allows notice contract to be secured at the February 16th County Commissioners meeting. The resolution will be protecting the NOTA assets for Oxford, Addison, and Orion Townships. It'll move the NODA contract to a 3-year contract and allow the first year to have $2.8 million put to NODA with monies to expand their routes and serve our community better. Thirdly, it's been, for the past 6 months, we've been trying to determine this fire panel. We've had how many, Chief, 3 false alarms now in the last 28 hours for fires. Our fire panel has been inappropriately put in 14 years ago. We've been working with it with Band-Aids and screws and corks. Today I had to call Thumb Alarm because our current supplier of the product is using an uncertified electrician, and through some recommendations of good people through the chief, Thumb Alarm came out and clearly noted that our panel is outdated. It's hodgepodged and put together with Band-Aids, and it is going to cost us approximately $20,000 to have all of the fire panel, the calling numbers, the CO2, the smoke detectors, the alarms, everything rewired and checked. We do have a green ladder though that we can use that somebody bought to shut the reset button off. But I just want to make you aware that there are some things that we need to do in this township hall that cost money. So this one will be put on the capital improvement, but in the interim, I had to call Thumb Alarm today to get them to stop sending false alarms to our fire department. Takes these trucks out of business, takes our paramedics and EMTs and firefighters out of the community by going to a false alarm. We charge people for false alarms, except for the township, right? Uh-oh.
Ventilators.
Okay, with that, I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Treasurer Ferrari, a second by Trustee Charles. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing none, thank you.
I appreciate it. 'Cause I'm going with
Danielle.
Yeah.
I want that to work.